Mama Adkins, and today we're going to make some sourdough sandwich bread. Okay, so to start, you need 1 cup of sourdough starter, actively fed about like 12 hours ago or so. So this is starter that I pulled out and fed my sourdough starter already, so this one's ready to be used. So 1 cup of sourdough starter, and then we need 2 cups of filtered water. We're going to use 1/4 of a cup of olive oil, 1/4 of a cup of honey, 6 cups of flour, and 2 teaspoons of salt. So to start with, we're just going to mix together, and this recipe makes 2 loaves. So we're gonna do 2 cups of water, I just used my 1/4 of a cup because I'm going to end up using it for this as well. A trick for the honey, if you measure out your olive oil first, it will help, the olive oil will coat the measuring cup, and then the honey will just slide right out. So 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. And then 1/4 of a cup of honey. I have found that for those that don't really like the sourdough flavor so much, like kids, the olive oil and honey combination added to it just really helps mellow out that sourdough. It just makes it really rich, but not quite as sourdough flavory. And see, the honey just slides right out. It's great. It's the best thing. I love this trick. Love it, love it. And then what we're gonna do is we're just going to mix this all together to incorporate it all, so it's nice and smooth. And I might end up grabbing my whisk. Actually, I think last time I did it, I used my whisk. I don't really need this one at all. This recipe is one that I have modified from one of my favorite traditional foods YouTubers, Mary's Nest. She has an awesome no-knead recipe, no-knead sourdough recipe, and so this is basically that but modified. And I just really like the extra flavoring that the honey and olive oil adds to it. And the fact that it's no knead. It's also pretty quick. It's one of the sourdough breads that you can actually make in a day. You don't have to really let it sit overnight and then do more and more stuff to it. So that's one of the reasons I really like this. I made it the other day, and we just did boules with it, but I really liked the texture of it, and I decided that I wanted to use it to make some loaf bread so that we could have sandwiches. Sandwich loaf. So when you're mixing it, or when you're whisking it all together, you can really feel the difference. When I first started mixing it, I felt the pushback from the sourdough that was in there. Now it's all nice and smooth, and it all feels exactly the same when I'm mixing it around. So I can tell that it's all mixed. The olive oil is always you're not really gonna be able to like get that. See how it's you can kind of see it at the top. That's gonna be harder to mix in, but it'll work out just fine once I start adding the flour. So mostly I'm just wanting to make sure that sourdough starter and the honey itself is not just sitting all at the bottom, and that feels really good. So next we're going to add in our flour and our salt. Here's our salt, we'll get to it in a minute. I add in the flour first. So it's going to be a total of 6 cups. I'm going to add 3 cups, and then I'll add the salt, and then we'll add the other 3 cups. So this is I have a 1/2 cup here. Okay, so there's 3 cups and then the salt. And I just like to do it this way so I don't put the salt right on the starter mixture, but then it's not on the top either. So then 2 teaspoons of salt. And I use Redmond's real salt. That's my favorite for sure. But you can use any fine salt. And then we're gonna add in our other 3 cups. All right, so 6 cups of flour here, and this is my fresh milled flour, and it's fresh milled, and then I sifted it, so I have a more finer flour, more closer to an all-purpose flour. I find that with bread itself, it helps it rise a lot better than using the 100% whole wheat, but it's still much healthier than the all-purpose flour that you get at the store because it is fresh milled. I just milled it a couple hours ago. So I'm going to use my hands and just mix it all together here. Get it all incorporated. And I kind of use like a claw to kind of claw it all together. Now, if you don't like the feel of your hands getting messy, because they're going to get messy, you can always use like a wooden spoon or a silicone spatula or something. I've done that before. I just find that it's nice to kind of get the feel a little bit better when you're using your hands. Also, I kind of have this big interest in doing things the way they used to be done. You know, there wasn't really silicone spatulas, or there probably was wooden spoons, but I'm sure, you know, back in the day, a long time ago, people would just use their hands because that's how you can really feel when you know when it's come together a lot better than just visually seeing it. So this isn't kneading, but it's just mixing it by hand. I do take a little bit. I kind of when I'm mixing it, I kind of use that same kneading movement, but just mix it all together. You mix it until you don't see any flour, because you can kind of see this isn't, there's still flour there, but I still have some good moisture over here that I could use. And you just want to mix until it's not really sticking to the bowl anymore, and it's sticking to itself more than anything else. And you want to make sure that you get underneath as well, so make sure you scoop it and mix that around, because it's a little bit drier on the bottom there, where some of that flour has settled and hasn't really been able to get the liquid added yet. And as you can see, it's starting to come away from the bowl more, so it's definitely getting more combined. There's still, because I'm feeling it, I can still feel there's some drier spots here versus some wetter spots over here, so it's not quite all mixed yet. I use my knuckles a lot too to kind of dig in. And now this part doesn't really have to take very long. It's pretty much all incorporated now. I am going to just use it to kind of scrape off the sides so I can get whatever got stuck on the sides here. Get that off and clean the bowl that way. Unless there's still some pieces down on the very bottom there, that's fine. And then once you have it all mixed together, and you know that it's pretty well incorporated there, then you just kind of want to make it into a rough ball. You don't want to have it like super flat on the bottom. You just kind of want to give it that ball shape. So I just go around and I pull each side like this, and I just kind of ball it up here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There's a good ball shape. And then I'm gonna try to get off some of this stuff if I can. If not, no big deal. Ball it back up here. All right, so then we're gonna get some plastic wrap. I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap. You can also cover it with a towel, and you just let it sit for about half an hour, minimum half an hour, I should say. So I'll cover it up and let it sit, and we'll come back after we're ready for the next step. Okay, so we've let our dough sit for about half an hour. It's probably been closer to like 45 minutes, honestly, at this point, but that's okay. And what we're gonna do is we're going to lightly flour the work surface so the dough doesn't stick. And you don't need a lot of flour, just lightly. And then the excess I'm just gonna scoop off to the side here. And then we're going to pull our dough onto the work surface. And it should come out pretty easily. Pretty clean bowl there. There's our dough. Okay, so what we're gonna do is called folding. So we're going to fold it one time all the way around, and then we'll go from there. So what you do is you kind of pull and then fold it over, and then turn it, and the same thing, pull and push, pull it over. Sometimes you might need to get a little bit more on the bottom there. And then we're gonna do this one, pull and over, and then one more, so we make a complete circle square thing. Pull and over. All right, so again, this bread is gonna make 2 loaves. So what I'm gonna do is kind of get it even here. I'm gonna cut it in half with my dough scraper. Bench scraper? I don't know what it's called. About half. I'm really bad at getting it even. That's where scale comes in handy, but again, I don't really like to weigh my stuff. So there's about half, and then what I'm gonna do is just, this is kind of the sticky part, I'm just gonna dab it in the flour so I know it's not gonna get too sticky, and set it right over there. And I'm gonna work with this one. These are definitely not the same size, actually, so let's take some. I think maybe that'll make it about the same. So, all right, same thing. We're just gonna dab a little bit on here, and we are going to do folds on this one as well. And we're gonna do 8 to 12 folds or so, just kind of however. This is going to be a little bit different actually than I did before, because I did them in rounds before. This time I'm making sandwich loaf. So I don't really want it round. Don't want it round. I'm going to make it more rectangle. So after I do the folds here, then I'm just gonna roll it out into like a log. And now this isn't kneading, this is called folding. So you're still not full on kneading the bread. Just folding it. If you're making it into a bowl, then you just do this and so you get that like nice round shape that you're looking for. Well, you're not going to get that round shape, but you're going to get close to it, and then you can manually form it into that round shape. Alright, so what I'm going to do now to get it into my more log, I'm just going to roll it like this. And I'm just going to roll it out some. So this is the pan that I am going to use. And so I want to get it, you know, a little bit wider so it'll fit my pan a little bit more. So I'm just going to roll it and kind of pull and stretch as well. And to get it, keep it nice and stiff, what you can do is kind of pull it, tuck and pull at the same time. I'm not sure if that really makes sense, but that's how you make them into a nice tight ball. And so I'm going to do the same thing here, but with this log, I think. Alright. Stretch it out. Now it's not all the way the exact same. I mean, it could be longer, but I'm going to stick with this because it's going to rise. And also, this is the first time I'm using this bread pan for this bread. So we'll see how it turns out. So I'm not really going to stretch it too much further because it's pretty good fit there. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Stretch and fold. And then you might notice I kind of smush it down afterwards. I don't think you really need to do that. It just makes me feel a little bit better. And really, I find with bread, people always get so nervous about making bread, but I feel like there's not really a huge right or wrong. You know, as long as you're doing something similar, it should be good. So you'll find your own technique for how to do things. Whenever I get frustrated with bread or with how I'm doing things, I just remember that back, you know, a long time ago, before there was technology, before there was even, you know, refrigerators and standard stoves, people would make bread. That was just the thing that you would make, right? So if they could do it then, we can definitely do it now. So just give yourself a little bit of leeway. Be patient with yourself, and you'll end up making some beautiful, delicious bread. Alright. I'm just gonna do that whole thing here. Very cool. But their names are so important. Release date, by the way, 18th of November. Release date, super important. Leaks, folks. Leaks time is important. These leaks you may have seen me cover up multiple times in previous videos from the past month and a half or so. Gotta hold my thing because it moves around. There's quite a few things actually. The mascot legendaries, Dragonfly and Dragon Electrics confirmed. The addition of Magic Surge, this one is including one particular Pokemon, which is the Spanish Tooth Fairy mouse, similar to Dedenne, right? This is what we were seeing there, Spanish mouse Pokemon. And if we come to the actual official website, we see it all here. It's Palmy. Palmy is the mouse Pokemon that has been discussed there a second ago. The website seems to have issues in English. I don't know why. It's electric type. It gives us a bit of a description here. Nothing too groundbreaking. Exactly the same. Alright. So same thing. This is confirmed. This is confirmed. Pull just a little bit more here. The other claim form is a surprise Tauros. I'm going to pinch the ends on this one a little bit more because the ends weren't as nice. And kind of tuck it in a little bit. Alright. Alright. There's that. So then what I'm going to do is just let them sit right here. And this time I'm going to put a towel over them. And I'm just going to let them sit for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'll see you back in a few. All right, we are back with our bread. It's been a little bit longer than 2 hours. I'm actually getting dinner started now. It wasn't rising as much as I wanted it to because it was kind of colder in my kitchen. So we ended up going about 4 hours, three and a half, something like that. But here we have it. This is where we're at now. Looking pretty good with our two. I'm just going to, I'm not sure how I want it to look. So I'm going to do one where I score it, I think. And the other one I'm just going to let be. So I'm just going to do like, I'll do it in this one. And I'm just going to do, you're supposed to use like a razor blade, but I don't have one.
It looks like bread already.
Might not look that great, but we'll see, This just helps it so that when it breaks, it knows where it's going to break. This one is going to look a little bit different because it's going to break out however it chooses to. So then the other trick, so usually when I cook the boules, I use my Dutch oven, but because I wanted this loaf shape, I'm going to use this. With my Dutch oven, I have a lid and I'm able to create that moisture in it because it just, that's how the Dutch oven works. Because I don't have lids for these, what I'm going to do is just kind of make a foil tent over them to kind of help keep in any bits of moisture that it has. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do that really fast for both of them. And so this, not only does it help to retain the moisture as it's cooking, but it also helps so it doesn't brown really fast on the top. And then after about half an hour, then I'll take the foil off and put the loaves back in for about 5 to 10 minutes, and that's when it'll start to get harder on the top. So let me just set this one aside. And we're just going to, this isn't really going to rise much for this type of bread, but I'm just going to kind of dome it just a bit and wrap this around here. And so if it does rise, then this dome gives it does give it room to rise. So there's our first dome, and then we're going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, so I have my oven set at 500 and it's ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in there. As soon as I put them in, I'm going to drop the temperature down to 475, and then they're going to bake in there for half an hour. After half an hour, then I'm going to take the foil off and then stick them back in for about 5 to 10 minutes. I personally prefer 5 minutes because I don't want the top super hard. But I will show you guys again. I'm going to stick these in the oven, and then I will be back in half an hour to show you taking the foil off. Alright, it's been half an hour. So we got these pulled out, and we're just going to untent them. So hot. Ooh, I tented it really good. Okay. Ooh. So there's the first one. It looks so cute. I love it. Looks exactly the same. Looks delicious. And then here's this one. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hot, hot, hot. Okay. Alright. Oh, it didn't really crack very much. I probably didn't even need to cut the other one then. But so there they are. And then I'm just going to stick them back in the oven for another 5 minutes, and they're just going to go from this lighter golden to a bit darker golden. All right, these are a beautiful golden brown. Exactly what I was looking for. Just gonna pull them out of the pan. They look kind of dark. That's just kind of what happens when you use whole wheat. It's gonna be kind of hollow sound. That's how you know it's good. You can kind of hear this hollow sound in there. So we're good on that. Nice and crunchy. Put that one there. We'll pull this one out too. Slides right out because I sprayed the pans so they wouldn't stick. Good look on the bottom. Look at that beautiful top. Alright. So there we have it. The hardest part here is just going to be letting them cool off because you can't cut into them too soon. I'll tell you what, that is definitely the hardest part. But I'm going to let them cool off for a little bit, and then I'll be back to cut into it so you can take a look at them. The bread is nice and cool. Looking beautiful. I'm going to slice into this one, and then we can take a look together on how it looks on the inside. All right. There's that bread there. Looking good. It didn't quite rise as high as I would like, but I think that also has to do with the fact that I used the wider bread pan. The shorter bread pan, it would have risen more. But this is still going to make really great little sandwiches, which is awesome. So there we have it. There's our bread. 2 loaves here. Wonderful no-knead sourdough bread. I am going to end up cutting this all up into slices, pre-slice it. I have a handy tool to help me slice the bread in just the same sizes, because I'm not always great at slicing them. So I'm going to end up doing that to keep this for our family to make sandwiches. So there you go. There we go, guys. We made 2 loaves of sandwich bread with our sourdough starter. Make sure you like and subscribe and click that notification bell for more, and I'll see you guys on the next video.